Association of Youth and Students for Peace, Pilipinas. A global family of young people building a world of peace with true love.
If this is your first time visiting on our channel, make sure to hit subscribe and please turn on the notification bell to be notified for the upcoming videos.
Mabuhay, pleasant day to all. Assalamualaikum, greetings of peace. Welcome to the fourth part of the lecture on the critique and counter proposal to communism. This content were mostly taken from the Causa Lecture Manual of 1985. In this chapter, we will discuss about the Marxist economic theories, namely the labor theory of value and the theory of surplus value. I am Richell Jalipa. It is my pleasure to be your presenter for today. Karl Marx determined early in his life that violent revolutionary destruction of the present state of affairs was the prerequisite of significant human progress. So by 1844, Karl Marx began to advocate the philosophy of communism as the solution to alienation, that is, the positive abolition of private property, and therefore the real appropriation of the human essence by and for man. Das Kapital is a critique of political economy which was published in 1867, 85, and 94 respectively. It was published as philosophical weapon capable of rousing anger and intensifying resentment to the point of instability. This manuscript contains the labor theory of value and the theory of surplus value. For Karl Marx, capitalism was a stage in the development of history of class struggles. Here, two major classes struggle against one another, the workers and the capitalists. As you can see, according to Karl Marx, the laborers invest labor to produce the product. However, the capitalists contribute so little through his capital. However, the profit, the lion's share of the profit, mostly goes to the capitalist, while the laborers received a tiny portion called wage. According to Karl Marx, private property is the cause of all alienation. Therefore, Marx concluded the following. In this sense, the theory of the communist may be summed up in a single sentence: the abolition of private property. An example is you can't own a farm, a home, or other things. First, let us discuss the labor theory of value. The labor theory of value is a theory of value that argues that the economic value of a goods or service is determined by the total amount of socially necessary labor required to produce it. Here we will discuss the labor theory of value based on the version of Karl Marx. According to Karl Marx, commodity is the basic unit of the capitalist economic structure. Commodity in capitalism is produced for the profit rather than consumption. Marx determined that there are two ways to determine the value of a commodity. First is the use value generated by useful labor, but this, according to Marx, does not embody a social relation. So Marx proposes the exchange value resulting from generic abstract labor, regardless of specifics. For example, for Karl Marx, if the production of a pen requires a cumulative of 1 hour of labor to make, then the value of a pen is 1 hour or 1 labor hour. And if the production of a mug is equal to the value of 2 abstract labor hours, then the value is 2 labor or 2 hours of labor time. So therefore, the 2 pens is equal to the value of 1 mug. So therefore, the price or the value can be set according to the amount of labor hours. So here, Karl Marx defined that the value of any commodity is based on labor hours. According to Marx, commodity value is determined in the production process and not in the market. However, setting all the prices or exchange value on the system of labor hours is inconsiderate to the value of skills, expertise, and abilities. So in order to salvage the labor theory of value, Marx introduced the conversion of labor hours. Let us begin first. What does it mean, conversion of labor hours? For example, the watch, as we may see, is a complex skilled, it requires a complex skill to make. However, a gravel requires a simple, unskilled labor hour. Let's say both of them requires 5 hours to make. So, Karl Marx explained that 1 useful hour to solve this problem is 1 useful hour in making a watch is equal to, let's say, 10 abstract hours. Therefore, to make an hour requires 50 abstract labor hours. If 1 abstract labor hour equals to $1, then we may say that the value of watch can be equal to $50 or 50 abstract labor hours. However, the gravel, since it requires simple unskilled labor hour, 1 useful labor hour is equal to 1 abstract hour. So therefore, it requires 5 abstract labor hours as the value. Therefore, the value of a gravel is 5 abstract labor hours, or we may say $5. So this solves the problem according to Karl Marx. Now, let us begin the critique of the labor theory of value. So, the truth is, the abstract labor hours cannot be determined prior to exchange. This is the reality. Especially in the Soviet Union, the labor hours are calculated from the prices. And prices are determined in the market. Here, let's say in the market, the producer and the consumer meet. And the center of their relationship is the commodity. So, they are interested in the use value of the commodity. Both parties have different perspective on use value of the commodity. The consumer is interested on the usefulness, while the producer, is interested on the profitability of the commodity. Therefore, the use value is the essence of commodity value. The price setting process does not directly involve a calculation of labor hours. The final price can only be determined in the market, and the profit is not automatic. Marx was so ignorant to think that profit is automatic. Hence, to set a fixed price based on labor is plainly foolish. For any product or commodity, the price will depend on the dynamics of supply and demand. Oversupply will result to the decrease in price of a commodity, while shortage will lead to the increase of its price. Additionally, a poor or substandard quality of a commodity will lead to no sale or product recall or disposal at salvage value. So ladies and gentlemen, for example, the Samsung Galaxy Note 7, if you may remember, had a product recall because of the problem in its battery. And so, for example, in Soviet Union, when a Soviet planner was asked how the Council for Mutual Economic Assistance, we say CMEA or COMECOM, would decide the prices when, as promised, the whole world becomes communist. And he answered, "We will keep one country capitalist just for this purpose." You see now, my dear fellow young people, ladies and gentlemen, without a market or a capitalist market, it is impossible to determine the price of commodity. So why did Marx burden himself with a theory rejected since the time by almost all economists? The purpose of Marx's economic theories is to win the workers to communism by showing that all value comes from labor in order to incite resentment among laborers to overthrow the system. So, now, let us move on to the second part of Marxist economics. This is entitled The Theory of Surplus Value. Engels, his friend, in his speech at Marx's gravesite, cited the theory of surplus value as Marx's greatest achievement. Vladimir Lenin called it the cornerstone of Marxist economics and based his theory of imperialism on it. According to Karl Marx, these are the three important components in manufacturing process. Raw materials, you can see, machinery, and labor power. Let us take the example of shirt-making industry as cited frequently by Marx in Das Kapital. The raw materials would be the cloth, and the machinery would be the sewing machine, and the labor power would be the sewing, as you see in the screen. The product would be the shirt. So the role of Marxist economist is to sum up the values contributed by each of these elements. Let us say we need $1 cloth for each shirt. $1 is assigned for depreciation cost of the machine, and $2 is for the laborers. Finally, the capitalist sells the shirt for $7 in the market. Now, a Marxist would ask, where does the $3 surplus value come from? And a Marxist economist would conclude that the raw materials has a fixed value, is not variable. The machinery is also fixed. Therefore, the only variable value is the labor power. Therefore, the surplus value comes from labor power. Marx explained that the first half of the working day is enough for the laborer's subsistence, while the second half of the working day is called a surplus labor hours. As you can see here, laborers, for example, are paid for only $2 a day, represented as necessary wage, but the $3 surplus wage is taken away by the capitalist. Marx's assumption is that the surplus labor value is stolen by the capitalist. So the total $5 supposed to be received, total wage supposed to be received by the laborer. However, only $2 is received by the laborer. Therefore, the $2, the $3, we may say, has been stolen by the capitalist from the laborer. Here, Marx would explain that the capitalist would always purchase the labor power at a smaller amount and sell it at a higher amount. According to Marx, the surplus labor value is stolen by the capitalist. The profit never goes to the laborer, but to the capitalist. The hardworking laborer is always exploited, while the capitalist is driven to exploit. Therefore, profit is evil according to Marx, and private property must be abolished. Marx's call to action is for the workers of the world to unite. He calls for a revolution to overthrow the capitalistic system. Marxism was a success as a political propaganda, but resulted to a total failure as an economic system. Now, let us begin our three-point critique of the theory of surplus value. Ladies and gentlemen, number one, Karl Marx's theory of surplus value is oversimplified. Pragmatically speaking, in order to calculate the cost of manufacturing a product, various factors are involved, such as the materials, labor, the overhead, the administrative cost, the operational cost, and other financial cost. Then, a product only can go to the market to be handled by the logistics, and that requires cost. Advertising, that requires cost. Sales and after-sales department require cost. Here, Karl Marx simplified his labor theory or theory of surplus value. According to Marx, a machine cannot produce a profit, but machine in reality can replace many aspects of human labor. Machine can also produce profit. Why can a machine generate a profit? The machine amplifies the labor power of human beings. In many ways, machines can be more efficient and cost-effective than human labor. We may say the human power can be replaced by machine power. In an example, with advanced machineries, a farm owner can hire much lesser worker or laborer. The same goes with any automated assembly or manufacturing plant. Or supercomputing machines amplify the thinking power of human beings. Computer can store larger amount of data, process faster, and execute with more accuracy and consistency. Number two, Karl Marx's theory of surplus value is unrealistic. Speaking pragmatically, Marxist economics is not feasible anywhere because it goes against the fundamental laws of economics. Marx condemned capitalism. He said that profit is evil and a crime because profit allows capitalists to exploit the laborers. He exalted socialism and predicted the coming of communism. However, for any economic development to appear, capital is fundamentally required. Banning capitalism required the state to provide the necessary capital, and this resulted to crony capitalism. When Marxist economic policies were implemented in the USSR, the result was confusing, slow, inefficient, since the plans for production, distribution, pricing, and consumption were decided by the state. The result was an economic disaster. The reason for this is the inefficiency and failure of the central planners to meet the needs of the consumers. The production process is thus insulated from the desires and needs of the consumers. The result was a total failure as an economic system in the USSR and other communist countries. In China, under Mao Zedong, the Great Leap Forward, a program by the government, resulted in the tens of millions of deaths, with estimates ranging between 15 and 55 million deaths, making the Great Chinese Famine the largest in human history. Ladies and gentlemen, the Great Leap Forward became the Great Chinese Famine. After the death of Mao, Deng Xiaoping, known as the architect of modern China, quoted the old proverb, "It doesn't matter whether a cat is black or white. If it catches mice, it is a good cat." The point was that capitalistic methods worked. And because of this, when Deng Xiaoping opened and liberalized the economy, in just a few years, they worked wonders as the world watched in amazement. China developed after embracing capitalism. Marx said that profit is evil. However, profit is a reward for people who increase social wealth by using their creativity. Profit is good, but it must be shared fairly to all who contributed. The crime of the capitalist is the failure to give a fair share of profit to all those who deserve it. This unfair policy often leads to resentment and is a fertile ground for communism. Additionally, if a profit is shared fairly, therefore, a loss in a company should be fairly shared among the capitalist, management, and the laborers too. And such a culture should be implemented in order to prevent the unfair treatment among the laborers of a company. Profit is good if it is shared fairly. Yes, it motivates creativity and hard work. Finally, Karl Marx's theory of surplus value is incomplete. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. These are the poetic words of Karl Marx. However, these words are incomplete. How can we determine each person's ability and needs? Who can determine everyone's ability or needs? First, the Creator surely knows about this, but this is only known to Him. Therefore, such decisions are safe to be left to each person to decide. However, such decisions are made by the communist state. And in a communist system, the state determines every person's abilities and needs. This goes against human nature. The desire to receive for the purpose of self-improvement and the desire to contribute and achieve through one's creativity. These desires are generally crushed in such a system. Marxist elimination of private property goes against our basic human nature, which is for self-improvement, for creativity, and achievement. This is surely against human nature. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us draw our conclusions. Marxism is workers' utopia in theory. However, once this is implemented, private property is banned and everything is owned by the state. So everything becomes state ownership. And religion is also banned. And the state becomes the supreme decision of ethics and morality and value system. And because of this, we may call it state supremacy, or the government becomes the god of the people. Finally, Marxists promise to liberate people and get rid of alienation. However, the result is greater alienation and the denial of human rights. Marxism, it becomes workers' hell in practice or reality. The free market system offers a great opportunity, but the system has been abused. Yes, let us admit, capitalism has been abused. Here are two examples of such abuses in a capitalistic system. On the left was the infamous global financial crisis of 2008, caused by a massive corruption in the financial market in the USA and around the world. On the right side is capitalist violation of workers' basic rights. We call it the end of contract, or in short, ENDO, which violates employees. Yes, economic problems in both the Marxist and capitalistic countries are rooted in ethical and moral problems. Therefore, what we need is a spiritual solution. The final question is, what do we need to do now? Status quo is never an option. External revolution, which is motivated by victim mentality through blaming other people, will cause more damage than good. Therefore, right here, right now, we need to begin the internal revolution by strengthening our patriotic mentality, by taking responsibility, by becoming a responsible child, a responsible student, a responsible steward or manager, a responsible neighbor, and a responsible citizen. This is called the revolution of character. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have mentioned earlier, the base of societies and nations are the moral values. Where people pursue the desires of the body more than the mind, the result is selfishness, leading to personal confusion and decline. Next, selfish individualism leads to conflicts and disorder in the family, resulting from the free sex culture where personal satisfaction goes above the order in the family. Eventually, this selfish and materialistic culture will breed rampant crimes and corruption, leading to the decline of the nation, the decline of the societies. However, whenever the people pursue the desires of the mind above the desires of the body, good character is built. This is the foundation for self-discipline and personal development. Such individuals will establish the model of an ideal family centered on the culture of love and harmony, peace and order. Such individuals and families are the true patriots of the nation and the foundation for sustainable justice and development. And now, let us conclude based on the presentation of the past 3 lecturers. And today, we can therefore surmise that Karl Marx misidentified the problem. Second, he exploited the suffering of the people. And number 3, Karl Marx incited resentment. Number 4, he justified armed violence. And finally, he violated the universal principles. Thank you very much for your kind listening for today. I hope you have learned a lot and had a wonderful time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe. You can also turn on the notification bell to be notified for the upcoming videos. Join us for more adventures.